Rita, the community manager at Third Academy. And I'm thrilled to be here with our guest today, Evan. Evan is a technologist with 15 years in the IT field, and he has been working crypto full time since 2015, leading various organizations as a tech lead and CTO for the last 10 years. Currently, Evan, he works at Metanomic. He's building analytics for Web3 games and the Metaverse. So we're in safe hands today for this very interesting topic that we're going to talk about. And today we're also going to cover a range of topics ranging from how we can conceptualize the metaverse to its impact and application, and then we'll move forward to the future and beyond. So if you're listening to me, if you're live on the metaverse with us, if you're listening on YouTube or you're listening to the replay, sit tight because it's going to be a very interesting space. All right, to begin with us, Evan, can you share your definition of the metaverse with us? How does it differ from the internet as we know it today? And maybe also could you give us like an introduction? I know I just said a few things about you. Could you also give us an introduction about yourself and let's get to meet you further.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi
All right.
everybody from wherever you are listening, metaverse or not, and thanks actually the third academy team for pretty much this is quite a nice setup as I said before. So yeah, pretty much Rita, you just said who I am. Just a slight I guess correction. So Metanomic pretty much got sold pretty much to IndiGT, and since September I have left IndiGT. So at the moment you could say I'm a pretty much a freelance contractor in this space. But yeah, everything else it's pretty much accurate. So yeah, so pretty much what we were doing at Metanomic was pretty much we're building behavioral profiles or behavioral understanding of the people that were doing that they were experiencing virtual worlds, and we're using pretty much this behavioral analytics either to serve pretty much more personalized content to the end users, to the end gamers or metaverse yeah, pretty much players or pretty much the developers were using these analytics for a better understanding of what the users are doing in their virtual world. So and this has been pretty much our main research and development in this space. Now about your question, actually, thank you very much for asking this question, because I do have a definition of what is the metaverse, and it's, I would say, a bit controversial from what you usually hear from around the internet, right? So what you usually hear about the internet when it comes to metaverse is it has to do with 3D first or AR or VR, or pretty much they're trying to put the virtual technology first. Also not my definition of the metaverse. If I am to define it, metaverse is the transcendence of your identity into a digital first experience. Now, what does this practically means? This means that when we're speaking about a metaverse, we're speaking about the digital experience, or your digital self is, I would say, more important than your physical self or your physical experience in the world. A good example, that I'm usually using is imagine the difference between Starbucks and your favorite local coffee shop, right? What happens is that when you go to Starbucks, you have to pretty much experience pretty much everything physically. You have to go to the queue. You have to pretty much take in what you'd like, the coffee, and pretty much you have a very non-personal experience while you're ordering your coffee. But when you're going to to your local shop, to your favorite local shop, the coffee barista already knows you, and once you go there, they see you and they go, do you want the usual? Which for me it's like a 3 shots flat white. Do you want the usual? And you go, yes, I want the usual. So what I'm trying to say by that is that Metaverse, with a digital first experience, or a digital first identity, you always have a personalized experience, no matter whether you are in the physical world or in the digital world. And pretty much, this is I would say the definition of the metaverse. And under this, we can expand into discussing about NFTs, digital assets, the whole economy behind it. But if I'm to give it the definition, that's it. It's literally the transcendence of your identity into being digital first experience. That's it.
Can you talk a little bit about
Impressive.
how the metaverse and NFTs and Web3 will really be a pioneering force in digital identities moving forward? It feels like this is the start of something really special and innovative in technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so what we see pretty much, growing into the world is, is that the virtual possessions, have a greater meaning, to your life, right? And uh, and we saw that, actually very recently, obviously with COVID and things like that. But we also saw that, quite recently, let's say with Sony, right? Like Sony, for example, you had purchased, your movies, you had purchased, digital content, and a business decision has been taken, and you no longer have what you literally just bought, right? So this is pretty much, and this has, a real hit on you, right? Like you purchase those, you thought that these movies or these possessions were yours, and they're not anymore. And same thing will happen if, I don't know, Sony, touch wood, it doesn't, but Sony goes down or Nintendo goes down, touch wood, they won't. But if they do, your possessions, are gone, which is not the case with if you had purchased, the Game Boy as a physical asset, for example. So to answer directly your question, this is what NFTs and pretty much, crypto is giving back to the world, right? It's giving the opportunity for you to actually own the way that we used to have, the way that we used to, have pretty much, digital content. So previously, if you're from the generation, from the 90s generation that I am, all of your games were, CD-ROMs, cassettes, and or things like that. We physically were owning our digital products, and we don't anymore. So we need the bridge, and pretty much NFTs and crypto is giving the solution. So yeah, that's literally the answer, I would say. And this is why we need metaverse, to be honest, is to be able to experience those possessions, those visual possessions, pretty much anywhere. Although we have other technical issues to solve, like interoperability and things like that, but that's pretty much the promise.
Interesting. Thank you. I think Stacy got her answer. Thank you very much for that question, Stacy. And talking about ownership, just like you were right now, Evan, and the metaverse beyond beyond entertainment, because I guess a lot of people who see the metaverse as just for entertainment purposes, but beyond the entertainment, how do you envision the metaverse impacting other area of our lives? So let's say sectors like, how would you see the metaverse impacting the educational sector, healthcare, business, and even social interaction? What would be your opinion concerning that?
Yeah, yeah. So I will go into the mainstream fields that pretty much everybody are covering. As Rita, as you said, education, healthcare, and so on. But to be honest, there is. I would say that the metaverse has a bit more humanitarian action that it could play, which is literally the world right now is on fire, right? And pretty much, my wish list, literally, if I had to write to Santa, for a wish list, this would be, to be honest, is that the metaverse could be used better for, pretty much on cultural inclusion, right? So what we see, for example, is that pretty much, definitely in Europe, but in many other places, right? There's a lot of immigration or people pretty much going to new places, and when you go to new places, like myself, for example, I'm also an immigrant, right? So when we're going to new places, it's really hard to to get localized, right? To feel inclusive. And the main reason why is that is because you have to feel the culture by living it, right? And the only way that you could previously do that, I mean, they you could get as much information from the internet, but you couldn't live it, right? Like you couldn't go to a British coffee shop and order coffee, let's say, as a British, or if that's a thing, but you know what I mean, right? So so pretty much to be culturally included, and honestly, I think the metaverse has a huge role to play there. Especially as an immigration inclusion tool, we could very easily see applications that uh, that people are using to get better localized in the countries that they want to make a new living, right? And I really believe that that the metaverse can have the answer pretty much on that. Actually, I don't think there's anything better than the metaverse, in pretty much providing an answer there. Even if you want to apply for for British citizenship or whatever the citizenship, you have to pass the test, and all the tests are in old school books and things like that. A metaverse first educational program would have been much easier,
Right.
for a person to live that. But in any case, moving, in other industries, the closest that comes into what I said is, is immersive learning, right? So, for example, I'm a parent. I have like, two little ones, right? And they're obviously learning English right now because this is where I am. But they have also a Greek heritage, right? And it's really hard, for them to you know to learn something something else in Greek, right? So things like global classrooms, right, or immersive global classrooms is something I would say that that's still missing, right? Or pretty much to be able to pick and choose your learning path of your child is still something really hard to happen at the moment, and I think the metaverse could definitely unlock that. And pretty much, moving forward, once you start conquering, conquer the learning part, this opens, a door to pretty much every industry, right? Like you have, healthcare, right? And you don't have to become a doctor, by experiencing the metaverse. But for example, you could go to the metaverse and learn, how to provide the, a first aid, right? Like for example, you have your parents, and maybe your parents are on an age that they have to be provided with assistance quite often, and you don't have the skills, right? Like you don't have the skills on how to do many of the care things that you need to do, so you have to learn them from somewhere. and
Right.
and uh, and again, a virtual space is great, you know not the only solution, but could be a solution that could include a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, pretty much. Finally, pretty much I'll skip pretty much everything else, and I'll just go on the business, right? So on the business side, we have advertising, pretty much, and this is where my most of my background is focused at, pretty much on the advertising. We already see, guerrilla kind of marketing, right? Like very unique kind of marketing campaigns happening through games, right? So I think Balenciaga actually did something quite unique through the metaverse. But anyway, the advertising, a unique advertising through games, for example, is I would say another killer app that the metaverse could definitely provide. For example, and then you have other things in in entertainment, right? Like for example, we do expect like to have a better cinema kind of experiences by providing like a fourth view or a fifth dimension, to the movie that you're experiencing, and things like that. I could go on and go on that, on the use cases, but yeah, I'll pass the microphone to you.
Sure. I love how you gave like the different scenarios of like how it could come to play in the different sectors, and especially when it comes to like social interaction, just like what we're having here. It doesn't feel like there's a million miles in between where I am versus where you are, right? So just staring at my screen, it feels like we are in the same room. And
Exactly.
also when it comes to, when it also comes to, you also mentioned like a global classroom, right? And when we were talking about the use cases in the educational sector, and I remember that a few weeks ago, we had we had a class for in our metaverse, a 5 weeks class for community managers. And just the ability to be in the same place feels like we're all in the same place. I believe that it actually improves learning, and there are a lot of nuances to that, and there are a lot of things that you can actually play around with, and that just improves your learning process overall. So I think you've done a really great job with the way you explained it for us. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so very much for
Absolutely.
answering that for us. All right, so so we're live at the Tech Academy's Metaverse Lounge, and we're talking about the Metaverse. Right, we're in the Metaverse, and we're talking about the Metaverse. How interesting is that? And we have Evan with us. We've had the opportunity to have him conceptualize the metaverse, what he thinks it is. And we've also just talked about how, aside from entertainment, how the metaverse can come to play in other sector like business, in advertising. And then when we look at education and even entertainment and social interaction, there are so many amazing use cases that there are so many ways that the metaverse can actually improve the way that we do things, the way that we live our lives. And it has been a very interesting topic. So if you have any question, if you are here with us, or if you are listening from YouTube, you can put your questions on the chat, or you can just unmute your mic and you can ask any time, and Evan will answer your question. Yeah, because today is all about the metaverse. So any confusion that you have, now is the best time to have that answered. And to move to the next question that you know is on my mind that I have now is um Evan, okay, when we look at how metaverse can empower communities, right? So in what way would you say it can empower and foster collaboration in different fields? And we can share specific examples of potential use cases on that. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, this comes close to home because yeah, and thanks for this question also because currently I'm advising a startup called Embed Protocol, and pretty much they have actually a great use case on that, right? And it's pretty much how do you as previously I was saying because you asked me what's how do I define metaverse, right? And I said
Mm-hmm.
the transcendence of your identity into being pretty much digital first, right? And
Mm.
and if we move this like kind of forward into the communities aspect, is that when you're part of the community, you want to feel included, right? And if you are a great contributor, you want to see somehow your reputation to to rise, right? Because you're doing a lot of things about the community, and pretty much this is like one the main core of what Embed is doing is pretty much taking taking the community the reputation that you are doing into different communities, and pretty much putting it pretty much is giving you ownership over your over the reputation and the things that you have done in this community, which I think is again it's it goes back into the question with virtual possessions, right? If you are currently on a digital kind of community, you want to do like so many things, right? Like you're contributing on Reddit, on the community about your, I don't know, your favorite anime or your favorite show, or you're part of a different community like Manchester United, like you're a football fan, and you're doing like so many things online, and it's very hard for you to bridge this gap into showing it as a physical person that you are important, right? And this is what people that are joining digital communities want to show. They want to show that they have some importance in these communities, and currently this is very hard to do so. And again, I think the metaverse is providing an answer there, right? Like if we were able to aggregate that, pretty much in a graph kind of way that this is you, but also you have also contributed a great amount your on your favorite football club, on your favorite show, and this defines you, right? Like the things that you like defines you, because these are the things that when you go and meet new people, you start with hobbies, right? Like you start with what you're doing, and currently your digital footprint is easily lost unless you have done it only on Facebook, so you can show your Facebook page, or maybe on Twitter. Everything else that you're doing is pretty much lost. It's it's really hard to show it to someone else, and meta, if you think of metaverse as beyond VR, into something that always follows you, it's much easier for you to show that you're not just an introvert kind of digital lonely guy. You're doing stuff, and you can show it pretty much. So so this is something that much I think it will benefit communities, and I really think that communities are lacking a lot behind this bell curve of innovation. The next step, I would say, that the communities probably they should start doing is pretty much generating now going back to the VR aspect of the metaverse, generating more 3D content, and we already have or at least we have the immersiveness of this technology, which is like Gaussian splatting, right? Like with Gaussian splatting or 360 videos, you can start taking content and then putting it into metaverse like we are currently are, right? And people can start interacting and say, hey, do you remember that we did this event previously? This is awesome. This was awesome, and things like that. But then going more to the social communities like group therapies, or maybe gaming communities, like more of a good gaming communities. Again, the metaverse can give like a killer app, because I can currently, if you want to receive therapy, for example, from a digital being, it's through a chatbot or maybe a video app, and it's not as as interactive as immersive, right? But if you go into a group, pretty much in something similar, very similar actually to what we are currently experiencing here, you could go with people with the same needs, the same worries, and say, hey, this is me, like you feel much more human in the way that that you want to express yourself, rather than being only behind an app. So yeah, I think in terms of communities, yeah, the metaverse definitely has a saying there as well.
Interesting.
I have a question, Evan. The
Okay.
question is about big companies that have metaverse instances. For example, Meta and
Yep.
Microsoft Mesh, Roblox, Unreal Engine, Epic Games.
Yep.
But they're really not interoperable. So you have to create avatars in each different world. You have to all or look different. Their parent, or you could, I guess you could make them the same, but they're not interoperable. What you do in one world doesn't carry over to another. Is there any solution on the horizon for that?
Yeah, this is thank you. So yes, so this is amazing, right? And this is where blockchain pretty much comes into place. And I mean, not to oversell myself, but this is like one of the topics that on the company that the startup that I'm advising, the embed protocol is, we are addressing that, and the idea is again, right? How do you gather your virtual goods that you have generated and scattered pretty much around the places to pretty much to describe yourself, right? Which is what you're asking, right? Because as you're saying, if you go to Reddit, or if you go to Roadblocks, your contribution stays there. And if Roadblocks, for example, goes down, that's it. Goodbye. It's similar to pretty much everything else. So yeah, blockchain is the answer there, and NFTs is the answer there, right? Like everything, and honestly, like hopefully in some years from now, the politicians will understand as well that when you are creating something or when you're buying something, similar to GDPR, that your data is yours, also your content is yours, and you need to somehow physically own it. And currently, the only technological solution that we have, unless you start putting everything into your USB stick, is blockchain. So pretty much everything needs to be behind your wallet. It doesn't have to be a wallet like MetaMask. There are many new wallets that are being created that they're not as technical savvy as MetaMask. And you need to be able to to get it right. Now there is the question of, okay, if I create an avatar on Unreal Engine, well, it's not I cannot import it into Unity, for example. My answer there is that's fine. You might not need it, right? Because like for example, in this metaverse that we are here, I am this avatar, right? But when I'm playing Call of Duty, actually I don't want to be this avatar, right? Like I want to be this buffed soldier, on my mission. So maybe the avatar, like how you fashion yourself, could be environment specific, and I think this is fine. But the fact that I have purchased something, and I purchase it from this community, ideally I would like some interoperability across the universes. So to give you to give you the answer, what is missing is that the notion, or sorry, the ownership of a virtual good, or the value of the virtual good, should be interoperable. The fashion of it, or how it looks like, maybe it's irrelevant. Maybe we just don't need it, to be honest. Like when you are going to a different environment, maybe you want to look different, and that's fine. You already do that on the physical world, right? Like you're dressing differently when you're going with your friends, and you're dressing differently when you're going, I don't know, to your work or somewhere else, right? I think you should be free to fashion differently.
That's a good point. For example, I'm sitting here in the metaverse with a tie on. I don't remember the last time I wore a tie. But
exactly, yeah. and similar to my avatar as well. I've never worn these clothes before. So yeah.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Rita.
Okay, thank you. I lost my audio connection, but I'm back now.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mike, for that question. I'm sure that Evan did justice to that. I'm going to go back to listen to that section that I missed because I got cut out. And yeah, so I just want us to talk a bit on privacy and security, right? So concerning data privacy and security within a metaverse environment. What are your thoughts on these issues, right? So how can we ensure a safe and responsible approach to this technology?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna put my advertisement technology, ad tech hat here, and the way that I have understood, the metaverse, obviously my opinion might not much, everybody else likes, but I see, pretty much I see very similar rules that apply onto the ad tech into the metaverse as well, right? Because the way that like the medium from which you are surfacing your data, and pretty much my phrasing might be too technical. So what I'm trying to say is that you are who you are, and if you want to say that your digital identity follows you pretty much as a first thing, it means that your data are following you, right? And this means that whether you are experiencing the world through the real world or through the web or through the 3D metaverse, the rules or the laws shouldn't change, right? So I think things like GDPR or the new legislation that we have in Europe about third-party processing of data into the ad tech world. I think they should also apply into the metaverse. And for the people that maybe have no idea what I'm talking about the advertisement world, pretty much, so there's a new legislation on the ad tech world whereby you need to give an explicit consent, if to which third party your data want to be processed with, right? So, for example, and I think this comes into legislation from next year, but in any case, maybe my dates are wrong, but in any case, like you need to be in position to say, listen, if you want to process my data, don't give it Google Analytics, you can process it with something else, or I don't want third parties to see my data, I want only the website to be able to see my data and process them, right? So yeah, and this pretty much, rules are legislation, for the advertisement technology and also for GDPR. So I think the same should be applied to the metaverse, right? So if I want the metaverse to not broadcast something that I have, for example, they shouldn't. Currently, I haven't seen any technology solving that. Definitely not on the metaverse. On the ad tech, we have already many, but on the metaverse, there's no way for me to hide that. I have purchased an NFT collection that I actually want to hide it, right? Like, for example, I might have purchased, a collection from Trump, right? Like, the Trump, new collection cards, and maybe I don't want everybody to see that. I want specific people to see that, but not everybody, for example. And tools like that on the metaverse don't exist yet. So yeah, things like that definitely need to be implemented on the metaverse. We're definitely behind. But as a rule of thumb, I think GDPR and ad tech legislation should be applied as a carbon copy. Now, about the ethical part of what you asked, Rita. Again, I want to go back into the inequality, right? Which is metaverse currently is expensive, right? So, for example, you need to buy NFTs, you need to have more or less, a fast computer or some sort of real-time connection. Not everybody's having that, right? And not everybody is digitally equally digitally educated. Like for example, how do I move into a 3D world, right? Like not many people have been educated on that, right? So the metaverse does create some cultural inequality that also we need to be able to somehow solve it, right? So yeah, I would say this is equally important to my eyes.
Well, that's actually a good point of view from how you have said it. Yeah. I guess there's so much room for growth and to make
Absolutely.
things work better. Yeah, make things work better and reduce these challenges that have come up with this emerging technology. Awesome. Thank you so very much for that answer. And just to quickly move on to the last phase of our space is to talk about the future and beyond. We've had the chance to talk about conceptualize the metaverse. We've talked about its impact and application, and you just talked about privacy and security issue, and also the inequality that has also come up with all of these, and to move further to the future and beyond, right? Because just like I said, I believe that there's so much room for growth. There's so much room for us to iterate and improve things, improve the technology. So, in your opinion, as we progress with the development of the metaverse, I know you've mentioned inequality, but what other key challenges and opportunities must we be aware of as we move forward in the
Yeah.
development of the metaverse? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So let me start with again my personal, I guess, wish list. And again, I'm a techie, right? So I'm gonna start, with the technical stuff, right? So
Right.
right. So well, I mean, obviously the last year, the world has changed, right? Like since open AIs, first mainstream product, right? ChatGPT. Pretty much everybody knows about generative AI, right? And if one industry is disrupted by this, is the metaverse, right? So and it has to do with pretty much everything that we have said, for the last 30 minutes or so, with virtual possession, pretty much ownership, like this is an out of discussion by its own, but but we need to be able to see more AI integrated metaverses. We cannot say that we are on a digital first society and the only being quotes many quotes on the being on the creature which is an AI kind of persona is not integrated yet, so we definitely need to see that, right? Yeah, I would say secondly is it more cheap, cheap access to AR VR solutions, but to the metaverse as a whole, right? Like it needs to go cheaper, right? As I said, currently there's a lot of cost, either contextual cost or as a device, metaverses need to become cheaper. Connectivity, maybe I guess is the next one. Not everybody has not all locations have 5G enabled, although it's quite broad. I would say maybe to the most Western world, but again, it's not as much as to say that it's metaverse is inclusive. And if we want to speak about education, if we want to speak about inclusion, we need to find better solutions, right? Like maybe we shouldn't rely on 5G connections just yet. Maybe we need to find like cheaper solutions. Yeah, the other thing, which is I would say even more technical is the new 3D creations, the new technique of 3D creations, Gaussian splatting, pretty much that I still haven't seen pretty much none of the metaverses adopting. So the Gaussian splatting is pretty much you can pretty much scan a real space and put them as a 3D as a 3D object pretty much everywhere. Like you can put it on your Unreal Engine, so you can put it pretty much onto your metaverse. I haven't seen such use cases. So this will enable more real real feeling digital spaces to exist. And then last thing is again what we just discussed just before, right? Like who made the question, which was very spot on. How do we have interoperability on the virtual goods that we have created on all of our different environments, right? Like I'm going to Roblox. As I said, maybe I don't need the same avatar when I'm going to Call of Duty, but I want the reputation, I want the points, right? So this protocol, there has to be a protocol that enables that. Or for example, I'm a fan of Chelsea or Manchester United. As I said before, I want to be able to show that when I'm going to a metaverse. The same way as I'm showing it on the real world, I want to show it here as well, right? I mean, sorry, I could go on, but I would say, in my personal wish list, these are I would say, the immediate opportunities that exist. Maybe another one I would say is, like if we can go to the economic part of the metaverse, still I would say there isn't, we still don't have a seasoned business model for the metaverses. So it definitely brings in a question that how do they sustain themselves. I personally think that ad tech is definitely maybe not the answer, but a great part of the answer here. And advertisement has always been the answer on the first business models on the digital space. So maybe it's the same for the metaverses, but this is to be seen. Yeah, sorry, that's about it.
Wow, this has been a very interesting space, and I'm sure that if you're listening to us and you didn't have any idea about the metaverse by now, you should not only be aware of the application and use cases, but also the challenges and opportunities that has come with this technology. And now is your chance. If you have any question, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. But before then, I just want to say thank you, Evan, for your the way you share with us today. There's so much passion, and so thank you for sharing your insightful and inspiring vision about the metaverse with all of us here today. You have shed light on you have shed light on like this exciting technology, and ignited my curiosity, if I am to say. So as we move forward, let's keep the conversation going and exploring the possibilities, because I believe there's so much more to the space, and also in building a more responsible and inclusive metaverse for all, which is very important.
The metaverse has guaranteed, and I'm grateful for this technology. I asked this question for a reason because there are a lot of potentials in Africa and a lot of opportunities that people can actually dive into. And I see the metaverse as a great tool that would be a shifter, like that would change the dynamic of the African society and then bring our talent and our vision to a limelight. Thank you so much for your response. Thank you so much for your invaluable contributions in the space. I hope to be in another space with you another time, so we'll discuss more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And as I said, right, so the metaverse can be part of the answer. It's not the answer. I would say maybe nothing is the answer. There are always multiple factors, but yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Come to the end of our space. This has been a very interesting space, and I also want to express my gratitude to Evan for sharing his knowledge and passion for the metaverse. I mean, the space has been enlightening, and I encourage everyone. Just like the question that Seven asked. So I encourage everyone to continue learning and exploring this fascinating word. Remember, the future is in our hands, so let's use the power of the metaverse to create a better future for all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Evan. And if you want to
Definitely.
get more involved in if you want to get more involved in our community events, we have this event every Wednesday. You can join us on Discord to get more information on how you can be in here with us in case you are listening to us live on YouTube, and we have so many resources that can help further your Web3 education and professional career. So thank you for being a part of TED Academy. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.